that. Let's go. One more time.
Yeah.
One more time. Go ahead, Drosmos.
E-A-G-L-E-S-E-O.
I can tell when there's no Eagle fans, they just sit there like this. They're like, really? Really? All right, so before we get to tonight's Pizza with the Pros, I do want to recognize we've been promoting this, our sports entertainment event planning class. They were able to go for 3 days, right? 3 days? 4 days, 3 nights. 4 days, 3 nights to New Orleans for a pre-Super Bowl party with Mike Ditka and Ron Jaworski's foundation, Cigar with the Stars. There's a photo of the 7 of them. We have a couple of them here in the room. I think, or are you the only one, Carrie, here? Anyone else who won? I think you're the only one, Carrie. Carrie, what was it like?
Put me on the spot, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really, really good experience.
Good experience or great experience?
Great experience.
Great experience.
Amazing experience.
All right, so again, we'll do that for the class this semester. They're preparing for around, and they do all this learning about event planning and preparing for a major event all during the semester, and then they actually implement it at the event itself. And this semester they're working on his golf event that will be later in May, I think it is. And then we'll do the Super Bowl one again next year. So that'll be a very popular class. They did not pay for anything. We pick up the tab. So very cool. But let's show the people that were able to celebrate last night. All right, so I'll leave that. So right here, this is Jake Culp. Jake works for Be Known, which is a sports branding and social media company. He actually met his boss at Pizza with the Pros. He graduated in 2021. He worked all week and then went to the Super Bowl last night. Pretty cool. Ryan Schaller right here, graduating. Ryan's not back, right? No, I don't see him.
He's not back.
But Ryan went as well. Sent the photo. I guess he put in the group me as well. This is classic stuff right here. Aiden, I see Aiden's here. Where's Aiden? Sarah's here. Aiden's here, and is Miller here? Okay, he's not here. What was inner excellence? You're doing some serious reading right on Broad, right?
Yeah, we were locking in.
Locked in?
Yeah, no, it was a party. I think there was some random truck that was getting bombarded. We took a couple of selfies with some street lights on the ground.
All right.
So it was fun.
So-
there was time to read.
Okay, yeah. Sarah, what was it like for you?
I saw them turning the traffic light down the street.
Yes, right by City Hall. What is the point of that?
It's just fun.
It was fun. Okay. All right. And then lastly, this is our guest tonight. This is her celebrating last night as Jordyn Erard-Coupe. So, enjoying it. Without further ado, let me just show you her Instagram post this morning. Take it all in. I gotta get it.
40-22. Jalen Hurts is the Super Bowl MVP. What the hell are you guys gonna hate on now? I'm not even sure if I processed everything yet. I don't even know if I'm fully awake yet. It was just easy and calm and fun. That was the most fun I've ever had watching a football game. I understand that definitely could have been a boring Super Bowl if you're not a Philly fan. But as a Philly fan, let me tell you, I could not have asked for anything more. I think I'm speechless, which, as we all know, doesn't happen very often. Love this city. I love this team. Go Birds! See you Friday on Broad Street. Good morning, Philadelphia!
All right, so we heard enough there. How many of you follow Sporty Jordyn? Sporty Jordyn. Oh, look at that, Jordyn. You got your loyal followers out here. That's awesome. Please welcome Jordyn Erard-Coupe. Please sit down. Let me just get the show out here. All right. So we're going to talk about all this. Okay. She slept in that jacket, by the way.
I haven't taken it off yet.
But director of social media for Rush Order Tees and a sports content creator. You saw that. That one had about 4,000-ish views, something like that last time.
Is that like 54?
54,000?
Yeah.
All right. When I saw it this morning, it was 4,000.
Yeah,
Now it's
that was early.
54.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. She oversees the creation and distribution of content for a leading custom apparel company. We'll talk about that. Launched and grown her own YouTube channel, and also covering the latest sports news trends. You saw what she does there. I've talked to Jordyn about this in the past. She incorporates herself in her social media posts, as well as anybody that I've seen come out of our program I'm really proud of what she's been able to do, and she does it really, really well. And then she was our Rowan Sports Cam Student of Excellence that we recognized, the first one in 2020. So she is, and she worked at NFL Films her senior year. I'm going to talk about all that as well. All right, so let me turn this off. So first of all, what is it like being back on campus?
It feels so good. I loved Rowan. I lived in this specific hall too, so it feels very, very good to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last night, where did you watch the Super Bowl?
So I watched the Super Bowl at home with my mom, which is a big superstition. When we won in 2017, I spent every single Sunday watching the game with my mom, just the two of us. And then, of course, kept that tradition for the Super Bowl, and we won. And then the first time that we played the Chiefs, I switched it up and I went out, which I blamed myself for our loss, of course, because I switched up routines. So last night went back to what we know, and I watched at home with my mom and then went out after the win, but we had to make sure we got the win first.
So you went out. Where did you
Yes.
go?
I went to Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey.
In Marlton. Okay.
Yeah.
What was Chickies like in Marlton?
It was packed. It was very fun. They had a DJ, a lot of green lights, and by the time I got there, it was just all celebration mode. So
You didn't read Inner Excellence last night on Broad Street.
no, I did
or
not.
you didn't help, carry a light post, around down Broad Street.
I did not. I kept
Actually,
it
that was
pretty
Market,
tame.
right? Wasn't that Market, or was that was Market?
Market.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
yeah.
We'll see what happens on Friday for the parade because I will be on Broad Street there. But
Okay.
we kept it tame for the night of the Super Bowl.
All right. Who's going to the parade?
Ooh, nice. Nice. That's what we like to see.
We have class at 9 a.m. on Friday. You will be there now. I was telling some people earlier that I went to the parade last time, and I was lucky. I had a nice spot right in front. Like Jason Kelsey would have been right there doing his speech, right there where the projector is. But I was there for like 10 hours.
Yes.
Like if you go to the speech at the art museum, you're not going to be able to move anywhere.
No.
Once you get there, you're there, unless you're on the parade route. So where's going to be your spot that you're going to go on the parade route?
So I actually got very lucky that I have some friends that actually live right behind the art museum. So we're going to get there, have an early morning, but we'll luckily hopefully be able to walk back and forth depending on the vibe, but we'll see.
Well,
when we
they
get
have
down
everything
there.
blocked off, so
I
like
know.
you can't cross this street.
That's
I mean,
what we did it for 2017.
you did?
So I'm hoping that it can be the same routine. We can just again
Oh.
run it back and have a day, but we'll see.
All right. So let me. They have lots of questions. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
it's so
love
good to be
having
here.
from 2020 and now I can't believe it's 2020
I
that you
know.
graduated. Here's one thing I want you to know about Jordyn. She was a triple major in our program, a triple major. And while she was a triple major, that's when she interned at NFL Good Morning Football, like 40 hours a week. How did you do that?
Very little sleep and a lot of motivation. But yeah, no, when I transferred to Rowan, I transferred after my freshman year. So my freshman year of college, I was at a really small liberal arts school, Marymount Manhattan, up in New York City. Just because when I graduated college, I was like, ooh, New York City, super bright lights, exciting. Went there for a year and just realized I wasn't going to get the sports education I knew that I wanted because sports was always the goal. So I transferred to Rowan and I came in as a double major in radio, TV, film production, and broadcast journalism. And then halfway through my sophomore year, they announced that my junior year, they would have the sports communication and media program. And that's when I went, ooh, this is what I'm supposed to do. But I was already kind of halfway through my other two programs. So I talked to my advisor and I said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but we need to add one more on. And I was doing 6 courses, 18 credits every semester, and then also taking classes over winter and summer as much as I could to graduate.
And interning.
Yes, and also working at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton that I attended last night to pay the bills.
So when you don't think you have the time or you just don't think you can fit it in your schedule, then I would point out someone like Jordyn that you can do it. It's just how motivated are you? Do you want to prove to everybody I can get it done? I see Professor Richmond back there nodding. Yes, right? How special is that, Professor Richmond, to have someone as a triple major and to be as successful now in the industry as Jordyn?
Incredible.
Thank
The
you.
reason why you're successful. It's not, we talk about this, we can't teach motivation not first person in class, first person raising your hand. You know, there's only so much you can do. You have to have that motivation and that hard work.
And she had the drive for sure, but also you knew what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you decide that part of it?
I knew basically, so I taught myself iMovie when I was in like 5th grade when I got my first Mac computer for Christmas. And I was always the friend that was like editing videos for everyone. We did the stop motion, all the stuff that was really popular when kind of social media and Facebook was just starting to blow up when I was growing up. So I kind of always knew I wanted to work in either photography or video production to some extent. And then by high school, I started doing some stuff with our news program. That's when I started kind of getting involved in sports production. And I was just like, this is the path for me. So I came into college very lucky, well, to an extent, because I knew I wanted to work in TV production for sports. And that was the goal. And I paved everything that I did around that. I got the NFL Films internship. So I was doing everything right. But then unfortunately, obviously, graduated during the midst of a global pandemic and a national lockdown with no sports for the first time ever. So things definitely took a turn, but I keep saying how grateful I am for that because then there wouldn't have been Sporty Jordy without that. So everything worked out the way it was supposed to.
All right. She does a podcast as well. I mean, I could go on forever. But what I want you to do is really reach out to Jordyn now, figure out some of the things that maybe questions that you might have about as you approach your career, what you might want to do. How many of you are interested in social media out here? Okay.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, so there's a fair number of students that it's one of our more popular, destinations for students. All right, who wants to go first? Sean, you want to go first?
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
I have a YouTube channel. It's called Kenny's Corner. How do you determine the numbers? How many people view you?
Yeah, so I post traditional long form content. I do a lot of the YouTube shorts and I also do live podcasting. So I'll do live streaming. And obviously everything, especially in the sports industry, it'll tell you like immediate views, but sometimes things blow up over time. Sometimes things are more evergreen, whereas sometimes things are old by the end of the week. So just kind of watching day by day and seeing where the numbers go. But I know there are times where I'll post something and I'm like, this has 2 days to really be successful compared to something where it's a little bit more long form, or if I'm doing predictions, like preseason predictions, I know that's a video that's going to grow over the course of the entire year, but it just kind of depends. But I just monitor day by day.
In your job day to day, is that an important part of it?
Yes.
Is the analytics part?
So, and that's the one thing I really kind of encourage with social media, because the analytics can be really boring and it can be a lot. But they really kind of tell you, the numbers will tell you exactly how your content's performing and exactly what your audience wants to see. And so sometimes it's like you go into content with, this is what I think is going to do good. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And you'll post it and it'll either do well or it won't. And it's kind of up to your followers and viewers to tell you exactly what they want to see. And the analytics are going to point all of that out. So there are some really big like key performance indicators, KPIs that we monitor all the time. Your hook of a video, which is the first 3 seconds, is the most important thing. And you'll notice in a lot of my personal content and in the content that I do for all of our Printfly accounts, we keep the hooks in that first 3 seconds very similar, just because especially with the way people scroll on social media now, you'll scroll and it's very just quick in the moment. And to really capture someone's attention and make someone remember you or remember your account, you really want to do something repeatable. So every time someone scrolls, they sit. So for example, with Sporty Jordy, I sit in my car and I do my Monday morning. So everyone knows when I'm sitting in my car on a Monday morning, they're getting a very aggressive Eagles reaction, whatever it may be. But it's that sort of that first 3 seconds and that repeatability aspect that's really, really important.
All right. Who's next? Right there. Go ahead.
What kept you motivated during COVID to keep, even though there were no sports, but to keep producing content during and after COVID?
Yeah, COVID was really, really tough. And I won't lie, because the first 4 months of it, obviously we were in lockdown and things were really unsure. I had 3 job offers before everything got really crazy. So I was working with NFL Films and they offered me an opportunity to do freelance full-time until something specific opened up. And I had offers from the Eagles and the Jets to join their post-grad production teams. So initially, I thought I had too many job offers. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what direction I was going to go. And then one by one, they just all started getting pulled. So confidence was really low at that point, just because it's like, I just worked so hard. I did all these amazing things, and then there's really nowhere to go with it. So I took kind of 4 months to process and decide, and was like, do I just want to take a job doing anything else outside of sports to get experience? I didn't want too much time to go by without having something on my resume. And then just kind of like my heart was just like, no, you dedicated everything to being in sports. This is what you want to do. So I started my YouTube channel. And initially went into it with just, this is going to be a resume builder. I can send it to any and everyone. And it shows that I know sports because I can talk about it. It shows I'm comfortable on camera. It shows I have like the producer qualities because I can pull segments. I know what's important. It shows I can edit, like all these different things. So basically I could be like, whatever you need me to do, I can do. But then I got very lucky, and it just kind of started growing a following organically. And it was really, really small at first, but just a lot of engagement from people I didn't know being like, you're really good at this, keep going. And I was like, maybe there's something here, and just kind of followed along with that. And it did eventually do what I wanted to do and get me jobs, but now I still get to be Sporty Jordy, which is really, really special and fun.
What is the most views you've had on one of your videos?
On Instagram, I know I've hit 4.5 million, which I think was my biggest. And I had a stretch. I remember at one point, I had like 3 videos over 1 million back to back to back. And that was at the early start of this football season. And it was a Kelly Oubre random video that I just thought of and posted, blew up, and then 2 Eagles ones. And then after that, it's kind of riding the momentum wave. And obviously you don't expect every video to hit 1 million, but when those are going viral and everyone's kind of talking about those, following up and doing comment replies and just interacting as much as possible to keep the follow-up content moving in a similar way is important. So you got to ride the momentum.
When you hit 1 million for the first time, what was your reaction?
I was in shock. I was in complete shock because the first time I ever hit 1 million, it was a video that, again, I put zero thought into and didn't expect. I was kind of like, oh, well, we'll see how this will do. It was like a weird edit to a weird sound. I was like, this is either going to hit or it's not. And it hit and blew up. And then that was another one just talking about like tracking analytics and just knowing what your followers want. Now I'll repeat that exact same style video over and over again. And it has similar results.
All right. Who's next? Ready? Go ahead, Hayden.
So a lot of people say that like if you're trying to get started on social media, you should post like X amount of times per day. Do you think that's the truth, or is there like a certain key that you have, or is it just like consistency?
So especially getting started, I do think posting as much as possible, whether it's 3 times a day, 5 times a day. You don't want to post bad content, so you also want to make sure it's like up to your standard, but just posting as much as possible to get out there, especially with the way algorithms are working right now. It's really important because they're kind of going based off of specifically TikTok and Instagram Reels, and the future of TikTok's very much up in the air, but all platforms are kind of taking on that same algorithm style where they'll push your content based on how your 3 previous videos are performing. So if you have one video that's kind of moving and going viral and then you post a follow-up, that one's also going to start to get pushed. So when you're growing an account, it's really important to post as much as possible. Now that I kind of have my consistent following and my views are hitting a really consistent benchmark that I'm happy with over and over again, I don't do that. I usually do 1 or 2 a day. But still, just especially when you're getting started, it's tough, but it is just as much content as possible.
So you've built a brand. Sporty Jordy's a brand.
Yeah.
Hunter Brody, I don't know if you're familiar with Broads, right? So Hunter Brody is also one of our students who's done a really good job at building a brand.
Me and him were here together.
You were here together at
Yeah.
the same time. And I remember meeting with him, and he started that in high school. When was the first time you started putting Sporty Jordy out there?
I was like, if I'm going to do this, I am doing this. So my first YouTube video, I put a ton of effort into, and I posted it everywhere. I was DMing it to Barstool. I was DMing it personally to Dave Portnoy, and I was just like, watch me, like, so sending it out to everyone, like every sports media, NBC Sports Philadelphia, like just trying to get as many people to view it as possible. And then even just I would like Google or search the Philadelphia Eagles hashtag and send it out, or NFL fans hashtag, and anyone who's posted anything, I'd be like, hey, I just started a YouTube channel, watch. And luckily I had a bunch of people from here and my friends from home were all really supportive. So my first 100 YouTube subscribers I hit like on my first day, just from everyone sharing. And then it took a very, very long time to hit 200 because YouTube's brutal. But then once you kind of get one thing to pop, things will start slowly moving. And now it's pretty consistent growth.
So when you hit 100, you're like, yeah, she's going, I want to hit 1 million.
Yeah.
It's a little different, thing. All right, who's next? What do we got? Go ahead, Anna.
What would you say is the most important thing when you're like building a brand and like making a page that has a consistent following is also building following? Like what's something that's important to put out there for you?
Yeah, definitely just sticking to a niche, because when I started, and I didn't want to do that initially, and I was very against it, and then I felt it because I was kind of hopping around between NFL, between NBA, between Philadelphia Eagles, and I was posting all these different things, and I would have hits, but there was no consistency and the growth wasn't coming. And then the second I kind of pivoted, I noticed, again, analytics, which I think is the most important part. All my videos that were blowing up were Eagles. So I was like, okay, people are clearly resonating more with this. This is what people want to see more of. And then so I kind of did a full pivot and just went full Eagles and made that my brand. I've become like this crazy Philadelphia Eagles fan on social media. But that's really when things started moving. And now that people know me for that, I can take a step back and now I can talk full NFL, league-wide. And now people know me and they know my personality and they care. So instead of me trying to like kind of force it and be like, oh, this is what I want to talk about, you guys should resonate with this. You kind of have to go with what they're telling you they want. And then once they're comfortable, you're following your whatever it may be, then you can kind of spread your wings a little bit. But definitely starting with a niche and sticking with something, even if it's like super, super niche that feels crazy, just having one thing. And again, going back to that repeatability aspect is so important.
And then you have to get your own green sneakers.
Yes.
I mean, you have to.
The sneaker collection is a must. I was Jalen 2 shoes for Halloween.
That's great. All right, Leo, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask something along the same lines of that, but where did you start? Like you started with YouTube, but what would you say to somebody who wants to start something new besides having a niche? What are some important things to remember when you're kind of doing that sort of thing?
Yeah, so if you're kind of unsure exactly where you're going, short form, which is TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever it may be, definitely just testing things. And if you're kind of just trying to figure out where you want to go, then I think it's okay to throw a bunch of stuff out there. And again, posting as much as possible and just seeing what sticks and then kind of going from there. But short form is obviously the key to virality. And then the main things for video, again, that hook, having your strong body, like, so you hook them in and then you keep them entertained to stay till the end, and then having some sort of really strong call to action, which is either follow me or let me know what you want to see more of, and getting that engagement in the comments and boosting, that's going to keep that video moving. And then again, if you throw a bunch of stuff out there, then you determine what sticks, and then you can find your niche and really grow that audience from there.
Okay, I have a follow-up. So
Yeah.
what would you do if it was like a podcast? So if it was, say it was like long-form content, what would your advice be to that?
So I can actually speak directly to that because I host a podcast. So, and our social following, we initially weren't doing enough social media when we started. I have a co-host, she's a Giants fan, so it's a very interesting dynamic. But we were just posting our full episodes and we were doing promo for it. But the second we started like really clipping off, we started doing segments. And we would post, again, that repeatability, the same segment every single week at the same time and breaking it up into that short form. And it takes extra work, but it's adding all the graphics and the fun stuff that turns it from long form into short form was the biggest thing. And we kind of focused more on short form rather than the show until we got our base following, and then we could go back to the podcast. So I hope that answered that.
Yeah, so it's basically just start out short and then get to the
Yes, that's been the key to success for me. And in both instances, for my YouTube and for the podcast, we tried forcing the long form, but in today's day and age, the attention span just isn't there. And if they don't know who you are, if they don't recognize you immediately, it's really tough. So getting that base from social and then being like, oh, here's a treat. Now you'll be able to see or hear more of me. Then it's kind of like the reverse psychology, and then you'll see the success there. Yeah.
Very good. All right, right here.
Which platform you think is easiest to grow on?
Unfortunately, it's TikTok. And again, I've been a part of my whole day to day for my full-time job is just monitoring the TikTok situation. So my full-time job, I manage 3 different custom apparel brands under one umbrella, one parent company. And our biggest following, we have 700,000 followers on TikTok. So I just remember my CEO coming to me and being like, so what are we going to do? What's going to happen from here if this goes away? But the one thing that I've been there for 2 years now. And the one thing that we're really mindful of is being really platform specific with content. So all content that goes on TikTok may not do well on Instagram or YouTube. And I think because it's so easy to go viral on TikTok, people think, oh, I'll just post it here and then I'll rip it and I'll cross post it everywhere else. And they expect kind of the same results. You're just not going to get that. So it's really monitoring each platform and seeing kind of what they have going on and the consistency, what fonts are people using, being recognizable, and being able to twist that. So you can get like that viral TikTok success everywhere else if you're not just keeping the TikTok strategy and mindset. Like you really got to kind of lean into Reels or lean into YouTube Shorts, which they're all a little different, which is tough. But now we started kind of deprioritizing TikTok, and now we have over 800,000 YouTube subscribers. So we were able to grow that. When we started last year, we only had 300,000. So just being able to like shift that priority and again, really focus in on what's working per platform and having that platform specific mindset. You can really go viral anywhere, but unfortunately TikTok is still the easiest.
What's the length of a video that you put out there on TikTok?
I usually do about 30 seconds.
And on Instagram?
Instagram, you can do Instagram, I would say either really short or longer. And TikTok now is paying for videos over a minute. And they really are encouraging that. So if you can join that program, if your account's eligible, once you're in there, they'll push long content, but getting to that point, you really don't want to do too much
Is
of it.
Sporty Jordyn on that in the paid content
Yeah.
for TikTok?
Yes. So TikTok and Instagram are monetized right now.
Nice.
Yeah, which is fun.
All right, right here.
So if you have an account and you're trying to like build a resume and like you have videos that have done really well, but they're not necessarily sports related, could you still use those as like a resume builder?
Yeah, absolutely. Because where you're going to go, I keep kind of referencing back to it, but the biggest parts of a social media video are a strong hook and a strong call to action. And if you can show that you just understand that, because my job right now, we work, our largest partners are the 76ers, but our actual marketing strategy isn't necessarily sports. We do sports partnerships, but it's really just traditional marketing. But I took vice versa, everything I know from all my sports content and turned it into marketing. So just showing that you can do those 2 main things, you'll be able to fix it into any niche.
All right. Go ahead, back. Go ahead.
Is there a certain content creator that got you into what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I love Annie Agar. She's phenomenal, and she was one of the first. She started blowing up right when I kind of started my whole Sporty Jordyn brand. So kind of watching her, I feel like she was the first female content creator that really kind of went mega viral and took over. So I took a lot of pointers from her and just confidence booster because I feel like a lot of the time the stigma for female in sports is just like, oh, talk, kind of lead conversation. And I know I'm dramatic and I'm leaning into my fandom a little bit. So I was a little nervous to be like funny and give my opinions. And seeing her do it and being so just like point blank about it and the reaction she got was a big motivation for me.
So Amy Agar, she does the same style pretty much every time.
Yes.
True?
Yes.
Is that good or bad?
Good.
That's good.
That's what, again, it's the repeatability you want. And she does that, her one series of the team meetings, she can shift it to any team, any sport, any situation, but it's that same white background, her in whatever team's t-shirt, and you know exactly how it's going to go. And then she has her other, like she gives her other reactions and her other jokes, but that one series is what consistently keeps her viral. And then she can do the other stuff as well. So she's got her strategy figured out and it's awesome.
Very good. All right. Who's next? Right here.
When dealing with customers or users, how or why do
answer certain people rather than others? So like on comments or whatever.
So with comments, my whole thing, comments are what push all social media videos. So whenever I post a video, I'm refreshing as much as possible for the first 10 minutes. And whatever, usually I'll do the first 3 to 5, depending on how quick a video is moving. I respond to them immediately. Just because my comment, that's going to double all my comments. And the more comments you're getting, the more your video is going to get pushed. That's the biggest engagement pusher. Likes are great. Comments are a gold mine. So that's also why, like, talking about a hook, like, you want something that's going to diversify people. You want people arguing in your comments. You honestly want hate. Like, you want the opposing views because that's what's going to give you the numbers. But then it just, after that, just comes, I'll just scroll whether people are being nice or being rude. It just kind of depends on the situation. But there's no real, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to avoid this person. It's just kind of whatever ones I see. When it comes to marketing and like my actual full-time job, we respond to every single comment just for the business, whether it's good or bad. But for my personal, it's just kind of whatever I see in the moment.
So how do you juggle between Sporty Jordy and your full-time job?
So I get very lucky. A lot of the people, I work with people from the Liberty line. If you guys know, they do like a Philly sports blog. And they also work for my company. And my CEO, his name's Mike Nemiroff. He started this company. We're now a multi-million-dollar company. He started it in his backyard because his parents' business was failing. And now it's turned into Rush Order Tees, which is just a monster in the custom apparel industry. And he just pushes that entrepreneurship mindset. So having him in my corner, being like, I know you're going to work really hard for me. So when the Eagles sign Saquon Barkley and you need to run out in the middle of the day to make a video to post to your following, he's very open about it. But I try my Sporty Jordy. I'll usually do content in the morning, go to work, and I try and put my blinders on and focus on my day job unless news breaks. And then the evenings I'll go home and that's when I focus on the content. I'll do my content plan for Sporty Jordy, but it's just being able to kind of divide and conquer and prioritize. And my full-time job knows there are times where Sporty Jordy comes first. Like the draft is a really big time for me. That's our slow season. So I think it is definitely a balance, and I got very lucky with my situation, but it's definitely just being open with employers about what you're doing. And then they also take advantage of it because, again, we're partners with the Sixers. So me using my following to promote those brands, he loves it. So, but it's definitely just being able to compartmentalize at times.
I know she likes her job because I've tried to encourage her about other jobs. She goes, oh, yeah, I'm pretty happy right now.
I love what I do.
I've called her a couple times. Hey, what do you think? What do you think, Jordyn? You think you want to try it? No, I'm good right now. So she's doing really well. But remember, if you're a triple major working full time, you're used to juggling a lot of different things in your life. So that's what she's done. All right, all the way in the back.
How do you manage like the authentication of like your posts, including like all your sponsorships that you post?
Yeah, so that's something that's really, really tough. Something I'm looking at getting like an assistant to help me just because the brand deals, they can get really granular. And there are some where it's like, we don't care if you work with anybody else, just post this for us. There's no limitations. And then there are other brands where there are really, really strict limitations. Specifically, I know sports betting content's really huge. Sports betting content is tough. And I've worked with a lot of sports books. And normally it's like whenever you're with one, you have to be with us. And like to the point where if the DraftKings is also working with, for example, Nike, this is hypothetical, but if they're working together and I'm working with DraftKings, then I can't even post with Adidas, for example. So just honestly reading through all the contracts, and I keep a list of like whatever I'm working on. Some deals are just one video, so it's like you don't have to think about it once it's done. Some are more extended, but I usually have anywhere from 3 to 10 brand deals going on at one time. And it's just making sure that it's spread out between different industries, different sports, and that there's just no overlap. But it can be tough.
Who haven't I got? I'll get back to you. Yep, right here in the back. Yep.
I have an old account on TikTok that has like a decent, like not like a lot of followers, but a decent amount. Like has a small following, right? If I want to post again, would you recommend I just like start from scratch? Like I privated all my videos.
If your videos are all private, I would say run with that account because you have the following. And even if it's just for that mindset of people come to your account and see you have followers, they get curious, I would run with that account. It's funny you say that because the first video that ever went viral for me, this is before I started doing short form like Sporty Jordy, so I didn't post anything on TikTok yet. I posted a video about Taylor Swift that got 770,000 views and got me 7,000 followers. And I was like, where did this come from? That was my first thing ever. And so I got those 7,000 followers. And again, that's when I just started YouTube. So I was like, okay, it's really easy to grow here. My YouTube, I think at that point I was at like 400 or 500 subscribers, but it was after a year of doing it, it was slower. So I wanted that instant gratification, and that's kind of when I went to TikTok and I privated that Taylor Swift video and just went full Sporty Jordy on there. So I've been there and it works.
Think of like, I don't know, if it was different content that I posted before, it's like different, should I still like use it though?
Yeah, especially if like it's already privated, it's not gonna hurt you at all. And the worst case scenario, and I know this happened to me when I first started doing it, the girls that followed me thinking they were following me for Taylor Swift content, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and they're like, what's going on? You'll lose some followers, but in the end it's worth it because it'll even out and then you'll gain the followers that are there for your new content.
All right. Go ahead.
So what are some major differences between running like a brand social media and then like your personal like social media?
That's a really good question. So in this day and age, it's actually getting closer and closer. So when I started social media, I was just posting as myself, and then I got a job as a social media manager, and they wanted me on camera doing sports betting content. So in that instance, it didn't feel different at all. Like it just felt like I was doing my Sporty Jordy stuff in two separate places. Now that I'm working for a large company and doing more traditional marketing, it's very different. The good news is that social media in today's age, there's a new term called EGC. So we're all used to like UGC content, which is just what we make in regards to brands or whatever. Now it's EGC, which is employee generated content. And everyone's just kind of more open. They want authenticity from brands. They want to feel like they're close to them. So that kind of traditional layer of marketing is starting to evaporate, but you still have to lean into whatever the brand wants. So my CEO is very open to creativity, thinking outside of the box. He was like, there's no limitations. We're allowed to test anything, but not every brand is going to have that. And the previous brand I worked for was actually a sports betting company that was very strict with their marketing. And they'll tell you, and they'll say, this is our brand voice. You have to stick to it. So it's going to vary from company to company, and that can be tough. And sometimes I even have a hard time, like turning off the light switch and being like, this is what I would post compared to what a brand's going to want to see. But it's really just absorbing what the brand asks and determining their voice.
How difficult was it for you to incorporate yourself in your posts? Like it's you,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just doing, putting a picture or a video or something else that's not you. Like, how difficult was that to be part of it?
It's really tough, and I've definitely had highs and lows with it, just because if you have a bad day, or if you don't feel like recording or I'm a girl, if you don't feel like putting makeup or doing your hair that day, if you're having a tired day, like it can be really tough, just because it's like you really have no choice. But I definitely made an intent and like a choice to keep my private life off of my social media and keep it just sports. So I don't really talk about my friends or what I did on the weekend, which I think was really good at keeping that barrier for me, just because, and again, personal choice. There are some influencers and content creators that put everything out there and it works for them. For me, I was like, that's just not the direction I want to go. So I take my Sporty Jordy is basically all my feelings, my emotions, whatever I've experienced, and then I just amplify it and turn it into more fun content. So if I have an idea, it's like, oh, this would be really fun, and then I kind of go into character and make it extra dramatic, extra kind of checking all those social media boxes to engage everybody. And that's kind of how it's been possible for me.
Do you have a separate account for just your personal stuff?
I do, and it's private, and there are very few people on it, but yeah, I have one. I talk like, I'm a big reader, like, so I have other hobbies, and I'll post about book stuff, but I don't do anything crazy with it.
I did the same thing.
Yep.
All right, you have that. Right.
Earlier you said bad publicity is publicity in general, so making it pretty much good. Is that true for any job in sports?
For social media, for the most part, yeah, because sports are pretty opinionated. I don't post too much NBA content. I posted one video the other day. I made the choice to stop reading the comments on that video just because I put my opinion out there. Not other people agreed with it, but it was my opinion. I stuck by it. It just hit a different audience first. But again, when I posted that video, it initially had 3,000 views, I think. Now it's at 30 because of everyone arguing in the comments. So it's definitely something that you have to be comfortable with. And then also, again, this is from a creator standpoint. There are certain brands that may not feel okay with it, but I mean, I see the way ESPN posts, the way NFL posts, they kind of lean in to the stuff that Barstool Sports does it now. They lean into the stuff that people comment on and say, why are you posting this? You never used to post like this. No one cares about this. And again, it's because those hate comments are going to fuel their posts and push their engagement. And also, it takes a lot more for someone to comment something nice than it takes for them to comment something mean. So even if all the comments are negative, you'll have 300 comments and 30,000 likes. So you know more people are liking it rather than not. You just may be confronted with the hate initially. So and a lot of my friends, they'll post one video, get some hate, and never post again. And they're like, I can't do this. I don't understand how you're okay with this. Like, but to me, it's just like, this is what I want to do. I wanted an outlet. So it's just kind of something you got to have thick skin and just let it kind of roll off.
What was the comment?
Oh, there were a lot.
No. What was your opinion?
Oh, I was really mad at the moves the Sixers were making at the trade deadline. I didn't like anything that was going on, and people were trying to justify it to me, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I was like, I don't like it. I wish we weren't going down this path. And there were people like, oh, this is why it's good. And I was like, okay, but I don't care about this. Like, it was their opinion. They thought it was good. They saw the upside in it. And I was like, you're entitled. I'm so glad you're thinking so positively. For me, I didn't like certain moves. So again, it's kind of just sticking with your opinion and letting everything run. So.
You do much on the Phillies?
Yes. Yeah. During Philly season.
You do?
I like Phillies content.
I mean, but Eagles is your number one.
Eagles my number one.
Is Phillies number two?
Yeah. Probably Sixers number two. So my boyfriend actually played in the Phillies organization.
Okay.
So there was one point he retired 2 years ago. And so there was one point I was like, this is kind of your job. So I took a step back from the Phillies just because I was like, I don't want to step on your toes at all. And now that he's done, I've opened the floodgates back up.
Oh, now you can rip them.
Yes. Now, because those were his friends. I was like, I can't roast that. Like, it felt there was a line there. So now we're back, which is fun.
We didn't know you had a boyfriend because we don't know.
I don't post about it.
We don't have your private number. All right. Did I get you already? Who have I gotten? I got you. Anyone else? Oh, right here.
So you mentioned earlier that you make a sports plan weekly for what you kind of stuff you want to post. When there's like nothing crazy going on, like crazy Saquon Barkley trades or draft or Eagles are going to the Super Bowl or anything like that, what does like a typical regular week look like for you?
Yeah, no, it's
during or not during football season.
Yeah, it's very different, and luckily Philly sports are so passionate about everything. So things definitely get slower, especially because football is my biggest season. So I'm coming up on my really slow season, kind of that month or two lag before the draft. But a lot of times I'll go back. So before the NFL season starts, I always do like a breakdown of every division, how I think they're gonna, like who's gonna come in first in the division. I give my picks for NFL honors, who I think is gonna win every award, my Super Bowl pick. So I take that and I break that up into short form content. And I do a reaction to it, and I talk about how right I was or how wrong I was, and that kind of drags it out. So it's just finding ways to repurpose old content. But it definitely is slower, and that's just something I expect. I'm like, I know my views are going to be low at this time. I know it may not be the virality and consistency that I'm used to, but I know the second that I post my draft content, which has been the last 3 years, some of my biggest, that's like my biggest time. I'm like, I know everyone's going to come back, and they'll see, they're like, I haven't seen you since the Super Bowl. I'm so excited. Now I know football season's back. I see your draft content. So it's also just being okay, knowing that things may get lower, but you built the following, so it'll come back. But just trying to find as much evergreen content as possible. I leaned into a lot of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. last year before the draft. So when we drafted him, I just kind of did stories on him, like predictions, but just kind of trying to but find stories that may not appear to be major headlines. If that makes sense.
Do you know who announced the pick? Right there, OJ Harris, right there.
Oh, that's so awesome.
OJ Harris did it. There you go. Right
That was one of my most viral videos last year, my reaction. So thank you for your work there.
I actually saw the video.
That is amazing.
And then OJ had a chance to meet Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and the dad as well. So
that's
that
so
was pretty
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And he gave a shout out to Rowan too,
yes.
which was great. Which
yes.
was nice. Well done. Well done. All right.
Full circle.
All right, let's go. We'll go right here, Hannah.
So with social media, it's like a job where you're like constantly on. You can't really turn, like you can't clock in and clock out. So how would you say you manage your personal life and your mental health with like constantly being on and constantly having to check in on that?
That is something I've really had to work on because I'm not good at that. And I was kind of just running myself. I would notice that I would run myself to kind of burnout and then I would need a break and then I would have to come back. And I was like, this isn't sustainable. So especially now, I give myself like a log off time. And again, I found other hobbies, like I read, I do other things. So I'll give myself like I'm turning my phone off. I don't touch it, which I know you had trouble. I'm not good at answering my phone just because I really will. Like I'll put my phone in the other room. I won't look at it. I won't talk to anybody. And it's just giving myself that time to like think to myself, not even scroll. That has really been monumental. And I'll take it like in the middle of my day when I work. I turn off my Slack. I take my lunch break. Like I really give myself designated alone time. And that refuels creativity. It just kind of gives me a reset. But it's definitely something that I had to learn the hard way just because, again, I would push myself to burnout often.
She definitely does that.
And do you do it like if you go out with your friends?
Yeah.
Is your phone off? Or are you like still
I don't really
on?
go out that much, but yeah, no, usually my phone's in my purse. And I try, which again, it's like a choice you have to make going in social media because when I'm out, sometimes it's either like I just want to record everything or I want to document everything. And I have to be like, maybe my friends don't want me to, maybe they don't want to be on TikTok right now kind of thing. And also just to give myself the space of not checking my content all the time or refreshing. And especially now I'm managing my own social medias and I manage 4 accounts for my job. So there are times where I'm sitting there and I'm just going through each account and refreshing, checking where everything is. And that can be really daunting, just waiting for things to move. So just making sure that things are put away. So yeah, if I'm not actively working or creating, I'm like rarely on my phone. So
it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. All right. Go ahead, Kate.
So some of like my favorite creators on various platforms like TikTok and Instagram, they'll go live sometimes, and I won't lie, like I'll fanboy in the comments and like ask them questions and whatnot. What are your thoughts on that form of content, like live streams on different platforms?
Live streams, I think, are so important. And again, it's that community building. So when you talked earlier, my slow seasons, I know that no matter what, I've built a loyal enough following at this point that if things get slower, if I did have to take a few days and not post, no matter what, when I come back, like they'll engage. And a lot of that is because of live content and interacting directly with them and asking. So this whole, I just had a really good feeling about the Eagles, like going into the postseason. So I did a whole live series every Saturday morning. I would go live for an hour and I would talk all NFL playoffs and specifically Eagles. And it was that one-on-one time. I did it on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok and just kind of doing exactly what you said, answering comments one-on-one. It gives them like that personal connection. And then it again shows me what they're interested in and helps me kind of determine my content for the upcoming week. Because if everyone's talking about or asking about one specific thing, I'm like, okay, they're going to want a bunch of content about this. So it's really good for the relationship building aspect with your community, but also platforms, TikTok and Instagram are pushing live. So if you're doing live content, then when you post an organic video, again, this is all the back end stuff, but if they see that you're an account that goes live often, they'll push your stuff that isn't live, just your organic content. So just overall, it's really good for morale and just account positivity. So I think it's awesome.
When do you do your podcast? When do you tape that? So
my podcast with Sam, we record it Wednesday nights and post it Thursday mornings. And then my sporty, I called it the Sporty Hour. And that did really, really well to the point where they were requesting the Sporty Hours. So for right before the Super Bowl, I went live for 2 hours, but those I'll do live every Saturday afternoon and they just live on my account.
The Sporty Hour you do on your own.
Yeah,
totally the other
solo.
podcast you do with Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And why did you choose Wednesday going into Thursday?
For football content. So we do a little bit of pop culture, but primarily sports. And we just wanted to frame it in the best way. So we knew it was kind of a good time to recap what was left from the previous week, but also look forward to the week ahead. And it gave us time so like we could clip things off before games on Sundays, again, taking that long form and turning it short form. So we would give a lot of our predictions before the game started, and then we had it so like Sunday night, if something crazy happens, we could clip it. There were so many times where we either predicted something like to a T, or we got something so wrong and we were able to make fun of ourselves. And again, just kind of being able to lean into it as soon as it was happening was really important. So just kind of timing, it depends on your sport too, because NBA, obviously, baseball, there's a lot more games, hockey. So for us, it was just that Thursday morning was the sweet spot.
How many of you have your own podcast? Just put your hands up a little higher. How many have a podcast? All right, there's about a handful here. What's the number one thing you would tell them about doing a podcast?
Podcasting's tough. It's definitely, again, leaning into the social media aspect. You cannot expect to just put out a long form hour show, however long it may be, and expect that to be what propels you. You really have to lean into all other aspects, and clipping off your podcast reels, taking the time to re-edit them and reshape them so they look like that organic social is so important. And then also guests, connecting with as many people as possible, getting on as many other shows as possible to like cross promote yourself. When me and Sam started, we got so lucky. We were just within like a podcast network, we were both doing individual content. So we already knew a lot of people that hosted, and everyone kind of brought us on. It was like, now they're starting their own show, and that got us our base following. So being able to network with as many people within like your specific podcast community, so usually within your niche, and then again, social media is going to be the biggest thing.
So what are we doing with the Sporty Jordy appearance here at Keats with the Pros? Like, what are we going to be? What are you going to do with this content? You know, that Carrie's right there shooting for you, that you're going to put out. What should we expect?
We are going to post it. And we're going to say, look how full circle everything can come, because I sat in this room how many times and said, what am I going to do with my life? Where's everything going? I was like wondering exactly what was going to happen, how it's going to fall into place. And now I get to come back and talk about it all, which is crazy. Hopefully I come back in another 5 years and see where everything's gone since then too.
That's great. That's great. All right. Let's see. We'll go right here. Go ahead, Leo.
Who was your favorite professor here at Rowan?
Ooh, that is a good one.
For the record, I never had her.
Yeah, he was never my professor, so he doesn't count. There was one, so for my journalism major, I don't know if she does any sports stuff. Is Candace Kelly still here?
She is.
Candace Kelly, she was in the broadcast journalism, but she was one of those women that was just so stern and just very, you didn't want to be on her bad side, but once she got to know you, and me and her got super close. But one of those people that is like, I'm not going to play any games with you, cut it very straight. And she was a broadcast journalist, so she was on the news. And then she also went into media law. And I just saw a lot of myself in her just because she did law, she did broadcast, and she was all over the place. So I really connected with her. And again, she tells it straight. So just kind of getting that real life advice of her being like, this isn't going to be easy. You have to work your butt off. I just really appreciated Dr. Emil Steiner from Sports Communication and Media. I loved him. He was one of my last professors before everything shut down my senior year. So had a lot of fun in that class too.
Did you think about going to law school one time?
I did.
Yeah, I thought so.
I took my LSATs and got accepted to Villanova Law. I wanted to be a sports agent at one point. Again, I told you, I've tried everything. So I got into Villanova Law, but it was 2020. And I was like, I'm not doing law school online. So yeah, I got accepted to Villanova Law. I had a job offer from the Eagles, the Jets, and NFL Films, and said, where do I go from here? And then before I know it, there was like no options. So, and social media was never on the table. So definitely go with the punches, because I love where I ended up, and I couldn't have predicted it 5 years ago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, go ahead.
So how do you deal with, like, the social media platforms are all connected now? Like, so how do you deal with, you know, your contacts syncing into your TikTok or your Instagram, or like your Facebook and your Instagram? Like, is that ever a problem for you?
I hate it, just because for me, what made it really easy when I started posting. So again, I have my personal Instagram that has like my friends and everything on it. And when I initially started, I made a second Sporty Jordy Instagram, because I was like, I don't want my family, people from high school that I don't talk to anymore. I was very nervous just to have like these people that knew me and see this other side of me interact. And then it just got to the point where I was just like, if I want to blow up the way that I want to, you just can't care. So it's definitely annoying and it's a little eerie, especially when I still see like random people that I graduated high school and college with, like my posts. It kind of makes it real. For me, it was really easy to like put on blinders and be like, I am posting into a void. No one's actually watching me, and all these people liking are actually fake. Like that was how it made it possible to initially just kind of be crazy on social and do what I do. But then it just got to the point where I was like, everyone's going to see it no matter what, and you just can't care. And some of the best advice I ever got was everyone's going to think it's really cringy and think it's really weird until you blow up, and then everyone wants to be you. So it's just kind of, you have to keep pushing until you hit that point.
Go ahead, Justin.
So your sorority Jordyn account, what do you think separates you from like other people like Rhodes, who does like all the Flyers stuff and Phillies content, Eagles content? What do you think separates you from other content pieces like that?
That's actually a really good question, because that's something when there's been so many Eagles creators and Philly creators over the years that have really blown up, and it's because our fandom is so diehard that everyone's so passionate about it. And I remember at one point, because I was, not to like sound annoying about it, but I was one of the first female Philly sports fans that had this kind of consistent following. And then I saw so many other creators growing up, and I love them all. They're all phenomenal. But I just took it personally, not personally, but I got a little insecure. And I was like, how do I stand out? I was like, what makes me different? How do I keep up this momentum when there are so many other people doing it? And the great thing about social media is there's like no cap. Like there can be 80,000 people talking about one thing. Someone's going to prefer you to someone else, or they can just watch both of you. And I think once I came to that realization, I was like, people can follow them and love them and interact with them, but they can also follow me. And the one thing that the feedback that I always get on my content is I kind of bring like the traditional fan perspective. And I make really relatable content is what people always say. It's like, oh, this was exactly how I was feeling during the game. And so what I've really leaned into is the emotion and like my emotions surrounding things. Whereas, for example, Rhodes, who's one of my very good friends to this day, he's definitely more your traditional Philly radio. That's what he does. And he does a lot more like stats and just here's how it is. Where I go a little bit more into like the passion of everything, and I do a lot more storytelling. So it's just figuring out kind of where you belong, and also having that understanding of, again, there can be 100 million people doing the same thing, but they're not going to do it in the same way you are. So it doesn't matter.
That's what I think is really unique about Jordyn, is that she's doing stuff that, you know, not a lot of people are doing what you're doing in this market. What is your audience beyond Philadelphia?
Yes.
What is your reach?
It's very funny because the comment that I get all the time is, I hate the Eagles, but I love your content. Mm-hmm. And then I had people DMing me being like, I'm rooting for the Eagles because of your content, because I know how passionate you are. And it's like, I don't care in this game, but I'm rooting for you. And I'd say my following is 75% Eagles fans, with the rest being NFL. But no matter what, especially now that I'm going back into more of the league-wide NFL stuff, I am still getting that reach as well. And I was really nervous to like offend my Philly following initially when I started going back, just because anytime I would talk about any other team, they would be like, but where's the Eagles? Where's the Eagles? And again, it's just kind of like being okay with some of the hate, even if it's from your fan base, and just being like, this is best for my career. This is how I'm going to continue to grow. Because I also realized I could be a Philly content creator, but then it's putting me in a box. So it was like, how big do I want to get? And I really think there are two avenues to, like, I can do the NFL stuff now and the Philly stuff, which is, I'm really, really grateful for. But yeah, it's just being able to diversify.
Okay. Go ahead, man.
So as a social media manager, obviously you have like a lot to learn, like the strategy, the analytics, the KPIs. How exactly did you learn all of that?
It's so funny you say that, because so my first job as a social media manager, like I said, I really wanted to be, I dabbled in media law. I really liked being a producer. That was my internship with NFL Film. So I was really working on the production crew of Good Morning Football. I absolutely loved it. I never wanted to be on camera. I told you that many times. I was like very against it initially. So when everything happened and I started my YouTube and everything, my first job as a social media manager, I had no formal training, and it was for a very, very small sports betting startup company. There was like 5 employees total, and they said, you're just going to start our social account and run it, and you're going to do whatever you want. So I was like, sure, sounds great. And so for that job, I really had no strategy, nothing. I was just posting, and again, just taking basically what I was already doing for my personal account, and I was able to do that for them and grow their following. And I grew them. I think we got them to 34,000 followers total before I got another job offer from a larger sports betting company. So I went with them, and they had a full marketing team, and that's when I realized all like the traditional aspects of it. And I was like, oh, this is a real job. Like I was like, what I was doing before was just kind of creative, testing things. But my boss there, he was our head of marketing. Brilliant. He came from Amazon, so he had a really, really strong background. And that's where I kind of learned all the traditional stuff from him. And it's really just being in the day-to-day of it. And then also to this day, I still do LinkedIn learnings because social media is constantly changing. So I'll do LinkedIn learnings. I'm subscribed to a bunch of blogs, social media blogs, connecting with other social media managers, just because I've kind of gotten to watch what initially was a social media manager was one person, and you were kind of doing everything. And we've watched that job title transform into an entire department. So I manage a team of 10 right now, which is crazy. And I have 2 senior social media managers, 4 regular social media managers, and then a few part-time. I have a graphics person. So initially when I started as well, it was social media managers, a one-man band, you do everything. And that has completely changed over the last 5 years, where now you can really specialize. There are some companies where you have one person that only focuses on strategy, and then some where people are only focusing on analytics. So it also depends where you end up. But I just encourage you to work with as many other social media managers as possible, because social media has been around for forever, but it's really over the last 5 years blown up and completely changed, and it's still growing and evolving. And especially if TikTok goes away, we're going to see it change again, and everything's constantly changing. So again, just having a really big network of other people doing it. And sometimes it's okay to take a moment and be like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what's next, just because things are changing, and being able to ask others and come together and being like, okay, well, I'm noticing this on my accounts, I'm noticing this on my accounts, and being able to find patterns from there is really important.
All right. Sean, what do you got?
How do you make it longer?
How do we make social media longer?
No, your content.
Your content longer.
Content longer?
Yeah.
Just finding other headlines. So a lot of times I'll also compare things to like previous. So for example, when Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were playing in the AFC Championship game, I could just be like, oh, here we go again. But I went back and I did a whole video on like their history and how many times they played each other and how many times has Josh Allen beaten him in the regular season compared to the postseason. So it's just taking one headline and just finding any way that you can expand on it.
All right. Good.
How did you decide you didn't want a career in production?
I really didn't have a choice. So basically when everything shut down, I probably could have gone back to it once everything started opening up again. But I got my first job as a social media manager. And what's fun about social media, and this is what I always say, because when I tell people I triple majored, it's always like, whoa, that just sounds crazy. And some people are like, oh, you just did it to have 3 degrees on the wall, when in reality, the reason I do that, and I do it to this day, is just, I always wanted to learn every aspect of the industry, just because I was like, no matter what direction I go, if I'm going to be on talent, I want to know how my producers are operating. I want to know what they're doing so I can do my job the best, and vice versa. If you're behind the camera, you want to know what your talent's going through so you can best produce for them and work around them. So my goal was always just to learn all aspects of the industry, just so I could perform my specific role the best that I could. And with that, it kind of really, social media is all of that. And especially if you're the one on camera, if you're just running a brand account, it can be very different. But for what I do, it's like, I need to know how to be on camera. I need to know how to produce, which is like pulling segments. What do people care about? And then you have to know how to edit. Then you have to know how to market it. So it kind of takes everything all in one, which is one of the things that I think I love so much about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the advice you would give them? Last words.
Literally,
Come on, Jordyn.
say yes to every opportunity while you're here, literally showing up here for every single person that walks in the door. You're going to learn something. Like I said, even if it's not in the exact field that you think you're going to want to go into, understanding every option and every door available, because again, you could graduate in a global pandemic and your whole life changes. So just being able to roll with the punches and constantly being able to be like, I'm ready for whatever comes when it comes is the biggest thing. So say yes to every opportunity.
You're not surprised that she's successful, are you? I mean, after listening to her for an hour, she is one sharp cookie, I'll say that. So, Jordyn, Erard-Coupe.